Poppin' silver on a Tuesday. Always good to catch up with Susan Slusser. Normally, we talk all things Giants with Susan, and we will talk a whole lot of Giants, but she's also out in Atlanta where she's hanging out with Brent Rooker, getting some intel on the possibility of a Bay Area expansion. Oh, and by the way, breaking some news that 2028 might be the year for Oracle Park to have a little all-star festivities if MLB players go to the Olympics. And Susan joins us on the UMA guest line. Susan, how are you?
I'm great. How are you guys?
Yeah, we're doing well. Not quite as, we're having a good week. I'm not complaining about my life, but, Atlanta looks like a lot of fun out there in the home run derby and the all-star game tonight. Hopefully see Webb and Rodriguez get some run, obviously. So let's just start with what you put out there within the last hour about 2028. I was reading yesterday, you and John Shea putting out that, not the near future for San Francisco to host any all-star festivity. Oh, that was okay.
I did not say that.
Pardon me. I think that was that might have been John Shea then. And anyway, it was all of a sudden now 2028. If players go to the Olympics, we could be having a 21 years later all-star San Francisco celebration.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's very much tied to the Olympics, and it makes sense. If they take a more extended all-star break and players are going straight from the all-star game to LA, they want a West Coast stadium, and it's very simple. All the other workable West Coast stadiums, that's minus Sacramento, have had games more recently. And MLB is pretty strict on, we take teams fairly much in order, like they go, who's had it, most recently and eliminate them. So I was told, this San Francisco just makes the most sense if this is the scenario. Now, obviously, MLB players in the Olympics has not been agreed to yet, but everything that the baseball writers we heard today when we talked to Tony Clark and Rob Manfred sounded very positive. I think everybody wants this to happen, and the players are very much on board with this. So it's just a matter of figuring out the schedule and making that work. And they have for the WBC, obviously it's a little bit of a different beast scheduling wise since it's during spring training. But you could start spring training earlier. You could shorten spring training. You could push back the playoffs. You could manipulate other parts of the schedule a little bit. Rob Manfred said it's doable. That to me means, I think we might be very much looking forward to that All-Star game in 2028.
Susan, Buster Posey's made it perfectly clear that the Giants are definitely shooting for the postseason. Obviously, the Devers trade was a dramatic trade. They're 52-45 at the break, third in the West, 6 behind the Dodgers, half game behind the Padres, 65 to go. What do you think the Giant front office mindset is here at the break? And I ask that because I'm seeing, Jeff Passan says they may have interest in Adolis Garcia. I've heard Ryan O'Hearn, who's going to start tonight for the American League at first base, or at DH, I should say. What is their mindset, you think, trade-wise at the deadline? And Luciano's getting hot. Is he a prime a trade chip potentially?
I actually addressed this in today's paper because I think Brent Rooker is a guy that fits them very well. The A's definitely need pitching. I know the A's and Giants never make trades, especially big ones. But this is one where I think they match up really well. And Rooker's on for any other team, a very reasonable contract. When you're the A's and you're out of it, suddenly everybody starts asking about your players. That's just how it is. Mason Miller went through that last year. Brent Rooker's going through that this year and went through it last year. And I think he would be a perfect fit for what they're looking for. I talked to O'Hearn. He's less likely to me. He's a left-handed hitter. They've got Devers, so I think they'd be going right-handed. But I did talk to O'Hearn, and he's heard the same rumors. He said he has to tell his friends and family to stop sending him all the rumors because it's been floods. But yeah, it's one of the reasons that this time of year is so fun, right? Is trying to separate some of this stuff out and what makes the most sense. For me, it's Rooker. But the thing they really need most of all, absolutely, is a left-handed reliever, especially if they're anticipating that Eric Miller is going to miss very much time. That should be number one, absolutely on their list.
Talking to Susan Slusser here on the notion of Brent Rooker, aside from getting robbed by less than an inch in the home run derby or having to defend the fact that he is a great father on his social media account. If he were to come to San Francisco and that trade was able to be worked out, this is when we love to do the activity of how does it affect everybody else. So, what would be the most sensible fit for Brent Rooker Would it be outfield? Would it be DH if Rafael Devers is able to play first? And how would that affect guys like a Luis Matos or a Wilmer Flores if he was able to come over, assuming that they wouldn't be part of a trade package?
Yeah, it probably depends a little bit on where Devers is playing. First of all of this is predicated on, what the A's would be looking for if they're willing to trade Rooker, right? But second, you can find a spot for a bat like Brent Rooker, but clearly, he plays in the outfield. He's not a great outfielder, but he can play there. He has obviously DH'd a ton. You could work him in, maybe platoon him some with somebody like Yaz, have him DH some. If Devers is at first, then what do you do with Wilmer? That's always a question. So a little more flexibility, a better bench. Certainly Rooker wouldn't come in as a bench player, but Wilmer Flores is very adept at coming off the bench, one of the best in the world at it. So if you're a playoff team and you've got him coming off the bench regularly and rested, which I think is even more important here, I think you're in a pretty good spot.
Susan, can you give us any insight at all onto the Devers report about the disc injury in his lower back? I saw Melvin said he's hopeful that it won't require a stint on the injured list and that he's begun taking anti-inflammatories, for the irritation that he's feeling. Any update or any insight into that injury?
When I talked to Rafael Devers last week, he said it's not a big deal. So I'm going to go with that since those were directly from him. Now, players sometimes downplay things, and you certainly don't want to come to a new team and immediately be going like, oh, I'm not playing well. Also, I'm hurt. He doesn't want to make any excuses. But so far, if the team isn't concerned and he's continuing to play, which he is, I have to think that the team is optimistic about it. Certainly not what you're hoping you're getting when you make a deal like that.
Our time with Susan Slusser is sponsored by Weichert Realtors, where home is everything to get started. Call your local Weichert office today, because at Weichert, we guide you home. Susan's also brought to you by River Islands. Come home to River Islands in Lathrop and discover the San Joaquin River lifestyle with its lakes, parks, and schools. Start your tour today at riverislands.com. Susan, you also wrote a great piece about Randy Rodriguez, and not only did he get high praise from his teammates like Logan Webb, who said he could get some Cy Young votes, but guys that he has struck out like a Manny Machado and a Brent Rooker himself. And so do you think with Randy Rodriguez, we saw him close once and get a save in San Diego. Then we saw how it all went south in that heartbreaker at Coors Field. But the Giants closer situation continues to be a bit of a mystery, where Ryan Walker was not right. Then Camilo Doval earns the job back. He's done solid, but looks a little bit iffy at times, even when he gets the save. Could Randy Rodriguez end up in the closing spot before the season is over?
Oh, I don't think there's any doubt that he could. He profiles very much as a closer. There's an equally strong argument that he's even more valuable in the role he's in now. You can bring him in anytime, especially if your team's in trouble, if you want to protect a lead before the ninth. He's just been so phenomenal. It was really fun yesterday during the media session. I essentially just went around to as many National League hitters as I could and asked them if they voted for him, because he did get in off the player ballot, which is, I love the player ballot. This is, Major League Baseball, when they're in charge of selecting guys, they're going to go all closers. You know that. So the players recognize a guy who's really been more valuable, really. And every single player I talked to had voted for him and raved. I mean, Manny Machado is like the leader of his fan club. He's just absolutely like, yes, this is the guy. He went and introduced himself to Randy Rodriguez yesterday. So this is a guy who's getting so much acclaim from his peers. None of them want to face him, so they were all sort of like, yeah, I like having him on this team, but I just don't want to face him again. So anywhere he wants to pitch and they have a need, he'll be fine.
Bob is tried everything, right? He's tried everything to jumpstart this offense. This guy, that guy, guys up top, guys in the middle, guys in the bottom of the lineup, trying everything. I admire all the different things he's tried this year. Personally, I would love to see the Giants. They've invested big money in Jung-Hoo Lee and obviously Devers and Adames. I'd like to see those guys hit up top of the lineup. What do you think? Jung-Hoo looked pretty good against the Dodgers. And I guess I'm really asking you maybe what you personally feel of a lineup, maybe a little bit more consistent lineup that goes, Jung-Hoo, Adames, Devers, 1, 2, 3.
I think every manager would love a consistent offense, but when you a lineup, but when you don't have a consistent offense, that's impossible. I'm fully, you try everything. I think that's actually very much the way to go. If Jung-Hoo Lee is hitting, he's at the top of the order for me. I love him as a leadoff hitter. I understand sort of the arguments when they've had him other places. But now that Adames is swinging the bat better, you can hit him anywhere in that top three, and he's fine. Chapman, he was hitting so well before he got hurt, and this is an issue that they've had. Like, they've had all these guys start to get hot and then immediately get hurt and then cool off. So the second half, Jung-Hoo Lee is really a huge key for them. They have to get more production from him. You're right. He started to kind of show a little bit, but of course what happens? Then they've got an all-star break. So they really, they need something more. This is why I think we're all going like they need another bat, but maybe they don't. Maybe they just need Jung-Hoo Lee to get going, Adames to continue to show who he really is, which we finally started to see in the last few weeks, and Devers to be healthy and providing the power that we and the Giants would like.
Susan, just going broad scale here on the notion of we're all looking at what the Giants need, and now that they don't play baseball for a few days, we're going to evaluate and then over-evaluate and do it all over again. This last weekend, how do you look at the whole picture of Giants-Dodgers? I mean, they were competitive in all three games. They do lose the series. I think it's clear that they are certainly missing some elements, but there were also a good handful of reasons to be optimistic as well. So just kind of your general consensus on watching the Dodgers come to Oracle Park for the first time and fighting it out.
Good and bad. You certainly could look at it as the Dodgers came in really on a down note. The Giants could have taken advantage of that, especially in their home park, and didn't. You lose 2 or 3 in your home park. That's never good against anybody, against your closest rival who's down. Definitely not what you want. The last game, obviously an extra innings loss. You can kind of say, oh, well, that's more like almost like it was even for the series. But it's not. You want to take 2 or 3. You want to sweep when a team's down. So I think from that standpoint, not the best series, but some good things out of it too. Like you mentioned, Jung-Hoo Lee, obviously, right among them. And, they don't have to face the Dodgers for a while. I think that last series in LA, that is going to be a really fun one. You certainly hope that at that point of the season, it's still meaningful.
Susan, the draft was just the other day, and the Giants got Gavin Killen from Tennessee. He's a Wisconsin kid. They were comparing him to Gavin Lux, who's also a Wisconsin kid. Sometimes it seems like every year in the last 4 or 5 years, there's like some college player that's drafted that's on this incredible fast track. People speculated, maybe the Giants are looking for a second baseman because that's a major league need. But this is obviously a developmental player. What have you heard about Killen as far as where he may start? Do they expect to try to fast track him? What are you hearing about him?
So the college players sometimes get fast tracked. I think they'll get him into Arizona and get him, sort of acclimated to the organization. And then go from there. But I wouldn't be surprised if he winds up on a little bit of a fast track. I think they do want to keep him at shortstop for the time being. Moving from short to second is not totally difficult, but I think at some point that's probably what will happen. I don't imagine that is something that he's not a guy that we're going to see soon. He'll probably be in big league spring training. Typically, first rounders are. I'm really looking forward to seeing him play and see what he could do then. And that's when you can really make an impression on a big league staff. And if at that point there's a need and they say like, hey, we really like this kid, you can take a longer look at him during the spring, have him move up very quickly, and then he potentially is just a step or 2 away from the big leagues. That's unlikely. College kid. Look at Bryce Eldridge. That guy has a world of talent, and he's still a ways away. Injuries have played a part in that, but not quite on the fast track that at one point we thought he might be.
A few more minutes here with Susan Slusser. Yeah, we're going to have Gavin Keelan's college coach joining us coming up in about 25 minutes, so going to be great to catch up with Tony Vitello. But aside from that pick alone, what were your larger takeaways from the couple of days of the draft and how it was, the first time that Buster Posey had gone through it in this role? And then you also got Zach Manassian and, of course, Randy Wynn being a big part of it as well.
Well, I think it was fascinating. I think that one thing that we're seeing is, and this also has showed in other moves they've made, is they value these high contact guys. If you are walking more than you're striking out, if you're making a lot of contact, even if you don't have a lot of pop, I think Those were the guys they were very much looking for. And then college starters, a little bit less of an injury risk. They're a little bit closer to the big leagues. Have a better idea what they're doing, might move along a little faster. That's the two things. The contact thing is interesting. It used to be everybody was looking for power. They think some of these guys have more power potential than they should, but I don't think that that's uppermost in their mind. I was talking to Dan Otero, the former Giants and A's reliever who works for Major League Baseball now yesterday, and we were talking about the draft, and he said this is such a smart way to go that looking at recent playoff teams, the teams that strike out the most very, very seldom get to the postseason. That sounds self-evident, but look, we're coming out of kind of the 3-2 outcomes era where everyone was striking out an enormous amount, and that's just not the way to win anymore.
Susan, I've probably asked you about Barry Bonds 25 times through history, and I know that, you were the first woman to serve as the president of the Baseball Writers Association of America, which is a credit to yourself. How do you see Barry? I mean, it's like right now, we know he hasn't gotten in, but it seems like the Giants are trying to mount some kind of a push. He seems to be more, obviously had the bobblehead thing. He was very present. To me, it just you can't have a Hall of Fame with full credibility without having some of the greatest players there. But we all know why he isn't there. What do you see in the future with the Veterans Committee and Bonds? Is it a dead end, or do you see a day where Barry Bonds is inducted in Cooperstown?
Well, I can't actually talk too specifically about that. I was on that era's committee when he and Clemens were up, and we are not allowed to talk about what happens inside that committee. There's a chance I will be on it again the next time he comes up. But what I will say is my vote is a matter of public record, and I have voted for him. And I voted for Clemens. There's no doubt that the Giants are very much embracing Barry Bonds. I think that's wonderful. He is the icon of, certainly this era of the Giants, absolutely. This century of the Giants, absolute icon. I love that, that there are so many players already in the Hall who have been associated with, all sorts of misbehavior, but including, using steroids, that I don't understand why we were trying to pin the entire era on two guys. Yes, there is evidence in court cases, and that's what most people cite. But at this point, you're without one of the best pitchers in the history of the game, and in my mind, the best hitter. You've got to, I think, reverse that. So, again, that doesn't have anything at all to do with the inner workings of the Veterans Committee.
Thanks so much for coming by, Susan. I hope you're having a blast out in Atlanta. Enjoy the game tonight. You got a prediction on the Logan Webb inning number 3 stat line?
I hope it's better than last year.
That's essentially what I said for a little Trending Now promo today, too. So thanks so much for coming by. We'll catch up Tuesday. In fact, I'll be off, but you'll get the return of Greg Papa. So let's call it a winning trade.
Fantastic. Thanks, guys.
Thanks,
Safe
Susan.
travels.
She is Susan Slusser. You can read her in the SF Chronicle, and the news of the day that she's putting out there. If players play in the Olympics, 2028 All-Star game coming right here to San Francisco. I got to say, Bay Area is getting a little bit spoiled. I know Santa Clara, not exactly the city, but NBA got the All-Star break. Santa Clara's getting the Super Bowl coming up, and we might be a couple years away from All-Star festivities happening right here in our backyard. So not too bad, Bay Area. Not too bad.
It's interesting, too, hearing that there's a little bit of a thawing of the, Barry Bonds frozen wall of he will not get in to, it seems like there are people that are like, hey, look, let's move beyond this and let's rectify this. I don't know if the veterans will see it the same way, but it's interesting to hear her perspective.
No question. Yeah, and I wish she was able to share us more, but hey, I guess rules are rules. Susan Slusser, great to join us. We're going to catch up with Tony Vitello, college coach of Gavin Keelan, coming up in a little bit, and then Jennifer Lee Chan joining us at 12:50. So lots we can get into. It is all coming your way. Papa and Silver with Larry Krueger on the Sports Leader.